It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, now, I don't know what time it is where you are, wherever you're watching from, but here in Spain, where I am based, it is just after 11:30 in the morning. So I went to bed last night, as we all do. At some point we go to bed, don't we? Imagine you go to bed in your own home with your husband, with your 3-month-old baby. You're all in the bed together, which is common, isn't it, when babies are little? The whole family, the husband, the wife, a young family, only in their 20s, and a 3-month-old baby, living in London on a student visa. And yeah, you'd expect to be safe, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you expect to be safe in your own bed, in your own home, sleeping next to your husband, sleeping next to your 3-month-old baby? You're not in this crazy world we're living in. So this woman, 24 years old, let's have a look at her. Originally from India, speaks English on a student visa that cost her parents £25,000 to send their daughter to England to do some studying, to maybe get a better life, whatever she was there for. Her parents are poor farmers in the Punjab, saved up everything they had to send their daughter. And what happened was she went to bed on July the 12th this year. Or would it have been July the 11th when she actually went to bed? July the 12th was when this horrible crime happened. So she went to bed the night before, as I say, with her little family in her own home. She's entitled to safety. But, if you, at the end of the day, this young woman, 24 years old, not safe in your own bed, lying next to your husband, your 3-month-old baby. A man broke into the house. A man who didn't even know her. Allegedly, of course, we've got to say allegedly. This man, see the knife in his hand? He was caught on door cam footage. That's the knife he was carrying. He was trying to get access to all different homes. He'd already allegedly stabbed somebody in the street. Anyway, whether their door was open, whether there was a window open, I don't know how this man got into this poor woman's house, but he did. And he stabbed her while she was sleeping next to her husband and her 3-month-old baby in London, in the UK. That's what we're going to chat about in this video. Anyway, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you all for watching, for liking, for subscribing. Thank you so much. Please put your DNA on the subscribe button. Don't forget to press the notifications button if you want to get updates on this case or any other case that we're following. Special thank you to those of you like and share the videos. Very special thank you to those of you who are members. Thank you for being a member of my channel. Those of you who buy Ko-fis, send super stickers, jewels, PayPals, all the extra things that people can do. Send me emails, leave me nice comments, etc. Thank you to all for all the ways that you support my channel. It means the world to me. Thank you. Okay, hello you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello to replay crew. Thank you to watching you all for watching you all play your part in helping my channel grow. And now I'm going to come into the chat. Who's brave enough to come into the chat now? Before I start talking about this case, I will be doing a little bit of waffling as usual. So just to let you know, if you don't like the waffle, you might want to go off, make a cup of tea, do whatever. But just to let you know that. Hi, David. Hi, Lily. Hi, Moonbeam. Hi, David. Desperados everywhere. Yeah, there are crazy people everywhere. This is what's scaring me so much. Who is there more of these kind of things happening? Or is it just because we get to hear about them? Now, one thing I do want to say about this case, where's the outrage? Where's the outrage that a 24-year-old mother was lying in bed with her husband and her 3-month-old baby, and a British white male broke into her house, allegedly, and stabbed her to death? Where's the outrage there? Where's Nigel Farage now? Does her life not matter as much as other people? You can bet if this would have been a white mother of 24 and an asylum seeker broke in and stabbed her to death while she was lying next to her husband and baby, this would be all over social media. But I'm telling you now, it isn't. It is. Why is it not being reported on more? Does this life not matter so much? Because she was a Sikh. Now, when I first heard about this case, I did wonder, what was it connected to the Henry Novak case? Because, of course, there's been terrible outrage, and so there should be. I'm not saying there shouldn't be outrage the other way around. I'm saying, where's the outrage in this case? As you say, Moonbeam, where's the riots? Where's everybody out there going, hey, this should not happen. Someone should not be lying in their own bed, whatever colour they are, whatever religion they are. Nobody should be going to bed and being stabbed in the early hours of the morning by somebody who breaks in. So where's the outrage in this case? So, and yeah, when I first heard of it, I thought, is this to do with like retribution? Because, of course, Henry Novak was stabbed by a Sikh. And that guy, he tried to cover it up, didn't he? His whole family tried to cover it up. Poor Henry was arrested while he was lay dying on the ground. There was outrage about that case, and so there should be. To me, all these cases deserve outrage. Nobody deserves more outrage than another when an innocent person who literally is doing nothing wrong is brutally murdered. Outrage is deserved for everybody, but there hasn't been, and I'm on social media a lot, and believe me, there's hardly anything, and not only by people like Nigel Farage. Where's the outrage from the government? For fuck's sake. Sorry, right, now I can feel I'm getting angry, so I need to calm down about it. The government, this new government, where's the outrage from Shabina Mahmood? Where is it? Ugh. I'm fuming about this case. We know you go to bed at night and you lie in I barricade my bedroom. I have been doing it for years, to be honest. Somebody might get in my house, they won't get in my bedroom. Apart from the dogs and the son who's a heavyweight boxer, etc. They certainly will not get in my bedroom because it's barricaded. But why should you have to do that? Is this what we've come down to now as a society? That even sleeping in your own bed, you are not safe next to your husband, next to your 3-month-old baby. Luckily, the baby was not harmed. Now, anyway, as I say in the beginning, I did wonder, is this a case of retribution against Sikhs? for what happened to Henry Novak, because this is what you get, people who brew hate. Henry Novak was murdered by a Sikh, but that man is not a murderer because he's a Sikh. He's a twat. He could be a Sikh, he could be a Catholic, he could be a priest, he could be any religion, he could be anything. He is a twonk, whatever. He would be a twonk, whatever he was. You know, being a twonk is not exclusive to any religion, skin colour. You know, most of the monsters that we see on this crime channel, they fit in, you know, as, you know, respected neighbours and things. People say, oh, would never imagine that he would have done that. So, but I did cross my mind when I first heard of this, because this poor woman or girl, I mean, I'd call her a girl, she's only 24, is a Sikh. I did wonder, is this some sort of retribution for what happened to Henry? Because there was so much hate whipped up by the usual suspects against Sikhs. You know, your hate should be reserved for the person who did this, regardless of their religion or the colour of their skin or their immigration status. They are a twonk. It's not about, you know, it doesn't mean all all Sikhs are murderers, or, you know what I'm saying. So it did cross my mind, but it doesn't seem that way. This man, I think this is going to end up being a mental health issue. Probably. But anyway, when I read you the story properly, you'll understand more. But don't you think, what is it coming to? Has it always been like this? We had Anne Widdecombe murdered in her own kitchen while she was having her lunch. Some twonk, whether he's a communist or not, doesn't matter. Not all communists are killers. Drove 4.5 hours to kill her in a kitchen in a 2-minute blitz attack. What's going on? Is this something that's always happened? Or is this something, you know, but now just because of social media, etc., we're getting to know about it. Over in America, we've got an 84-year-old woman who was sleeping in her own bed, and God knows what happened to her, to Nancy Guthrie. Over in Australia, we've got Samantha Murphy, went for a jog like she'd done every Sunday morning for ages in Ballarat in Australia. She was disappeared, was never seen again, and now we're waiting, you know, with bated breath for the murder trial of Patrick, who's accused of killing her, though her body's never been found. So these are all people. I think the thing that always attracts the most attention, in my opinion, in true crime, are the people doing the most ordinary things, like sleeping in your own bed, eating your lunch in your own kitchen, Nicola Bulley taking your dog for a walk, though that's supposed to have been an accident. Well, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. Samantha Murphy jogging like women do all the time. I've seen recently, because, you know, there's a lot of people about the moment because it's summertime. Seen a lot of girls jogging up around the beach area and this, and you know, every time I see one, my heart stops a little bit. If it's late at night and it's isolated, and I think, oh God, I hope they're okay. You shouldn't have to think like that, should you? You shouldn't have to be thinking, oh, I can't take my dogs for a walk there because it's a bit too quiet, or it's a bit too late, or I can't jog there, or I can't walk there. You shouldn't have to think like that. You certainly shouldn't have to think, oh, I can't even go to bed in my own house, for fuck's sake. If you can't go to sleep in bed next to your husband, I'm going to end up keep repeating this because I still cannot even believe I'm saying it, that, you know, you could be in that most normal of circumstances and still get brutally murdered, for fuck's sake. Calm, deep breaths, deep breaths. So, this is an incredible case. Anyway, before I get going with the case, let me just have a drink. I wish it was an alcoholic drink. Later, I'll be having an alcoholic drink. God. No, God, it's a wonder we're not all either raving drug addicts or raving alcoholics in this world we live in. It's driven me to vaping after years of not smoking. This world has driven me to vaping, but there are worse things I could do, I suppose. So let me just read you what happened. Actually, I'll read you what happened. I'll do my housekeeping in a bit because people want to know. So this woman, as I say, she's a woman, she's a mother, 24 years old. But when you get to my age, that just seems like a girl, doesn't it? But she's not a girl. She's a mother. That child will now have to grow up without a mother. Terrible, isn't it? Terrible, terrible. Let me read you the article. This is Kirandeep Kaur. And at the moment, her family are trying to organise her repatriation. So imagine that, not only your daughter is murdered, but she's in a foreign country. You've got to, that cost a lot of money to have her body repatriated to India. There has been a GoFundMe and they've raised quite a lot of money. I think they've raised about £60,000, which is good. I don't know how much it costs to take a body back to India, but it won't be cheap, will it? You can bet it's going to go into the thousands. Also, that baby, the reason they sent Kirandeep to London on a student visa, so they saved up £25,000. These are farmers in the Punjab. They're not rich people. They saved up the money to send her to London because they thought she had better educational opportunities. They also thought it'd be safer there. Do you imagine you're sending your child to what you think is a safe country and she gets stabbed while she's lying in bed? So what happened? So a man has been charged with murder over the attack on Kirandeep Kaur at her home in Hayes in West London. So this is in London, or in the west of London, on the morning of 12th of July. Kirandeep, who had reportedly been living in the UK since 2024 on a student visa, allegedly suffered a stab wound to the chest and was pronounced dead at 8:26 a.m. So don't forget, these parents, they've saved up money to send Kirandeep. See, what happens in Indian society is they provide for their children, but eventually, as the daughter, or sometimes it's the son's wife, the idea is eventually they will look after the parents as they get older. So these parents, they've saved up their money from the farm, sent her off on a student visa to study in London because they think she'll get a better. This is a compliment to Britain that people send their students, send their children to London for an education because they think they'll get a good education there on a student visa. That's a compliment to our country, to Britain. We should be glad of having that positive. Well, we did have a positive reputation. God knows what our reputation is now. So they've sent her there. So she'll get her education there. She'll study there. And then maybe go back to India to look after them. Or maybe she'll get a job as a doctor or something in the UK. And she'll send money back for her parents to repay them for what they've done for her. This is how it works in Indian society. So her mother, Baljit, speaking from India to ITV News through an interpreter, said, "We send them somewhere safe to study. Then this happens. We didn't realise hooliganism and violence is happening there too." A lot of people outside London or outside the UK, they don't realise that London is not, listen, it's not any less safe than anywhere else. I don't believe that London is, less safe than any capital city. Capital cities are not safe. Whichever one you go to, there's always a lot of crime in capital cities. In Madrid, in New York, this is the way it is. But a lot of people, they have a strange impression of Britain that it is safe, and it's not safe. Sadly, it isn't. I had a student, I've said before, she was Polish. She was studying here there's a university hospital near where I live. She was studying to be an eye doctor, and she was going to London to do a course, because London, there's an eye hospital, famous eye hospital in London, that's, famed for its reputation. She was going there to study there and, to continue her studies, or just for 6 months to learn. And she was staying, where was it she said she was staying? I think it was Brixton or somewhere. And I had to say to her, look, don't think you're safe there. You can't go walking around the streets at 10 o'clock at night in Brixton and think that you're safe. I mean, she was an absolutely gorgeous girl as well. She'd be like just a beacon for any sex offender there, because if she was wandering around the streets thinking she was safe at bloody 10 o'clock at night. I mean, look what happened to Sarah Everard earlier on by a police officer. You've got to be careful wherever you are. And I had to tell her that. You've got to be careful. Don't think you're safe. It's not like you see on the telly. It's not like 4 Weddings and a Funeral, or, any of these programs that you might see about London. London's a dangerous place because it's a capital city. Everywhere's dangerous. Even little villages are dangerous. You've always got to be aware of your safety, haven't you? So this poor mother said, we send them somewhere safe to study, then this happens. We want justice and we want our daughter's body back. Do you know they only found out 3 days later? This poor family over there in the Punjab, they didn't find out for 3 days. They found out from other, villagers and that. They weren't notified by the police 3 days before they were told that their daughter had been murdered. How awful. How awful. Just, I'm a bit speechless about this whole thing, about them not getting to know about it, about the fact that there's been no outrage. It's hardly even been mentioned on the news. And it certainly hasn't been mentioned like on the social media. Why? I mean, this is outrageous. You don't get more outrageous than someone she wasn't even out, and I'm not saying that that's legitimate, but she wasn't out and about. She wasn't drunk. She was asleep in her own bed next to her husband, for fuck's sake. How much more outrage can you feel than that? So, anyway, they set up a GoFundMe page and it has raised quite a lot of money. So it is about £60,000 it's raised. So it seems like, at least financially, getting their daughter's body back to the Punjab, all that kind of thing is going to be sorted. But it doesn't take away from the tragedy of this horrible event, is it? So this person who allegedly has done it, let's have a look at his photo again. This is him. This is the person who's been arrested and charged. Let me just make sure you can see it okay. Yeah. If you can see, he's got the knife in his hand there. This is a door cam video. He was trying various doors. And he had already tried to kill someone on the street. So it does seem that maybe it's not a targeted attack against the Sikhs, because this guy, allegedly 46 years old, Daniel Sean James, 46, white, British. Allegedly, he had stabbed a man in his 20s in the back on a nearby street. Now, whether he was a Sikh or not, we don't know. We don't know the details of that victim. He was a complete stranger to both these people, both the person that he tried to kill before he killed this poor woman, And he was a stranger to him, to the other guy as well that attempted to kill. So he's from Pinner in northwest London, so not from the same place. So what he was doing in Hayes, I have no idea. But he apparently broke into the Kaur's home, and then 2 minutes after stabbing her in the back as she lay sleeping, he jumped out of a window, left their home, jumping out of a window from the kitchen living room area, and he broke both his ankles. I hope it fucking hurt him. I hope he was in agony. He broke both ankles and then tried to run away, but he collapsed after 10 meters. So he's been charged with her murder as well as attempted murder and possessing a blade. And the plea hearing is from the on the 1st of October, where we'll hear, is he going to plead not guilty on grounds of insanity or something like that? And then the trial is booked in already from the 5th of April next year, and 3 weeks have been allocated for the trial. Let's see if there's any other details that I can find. So yeah, apparently what happened was her husband woke up to the sound of his wife screaming. Imagine that as well. You lay in bed and, you know, you're half asleep and you hear screaming, and it's your wife lying next to you, and he saw a figure leaving the back bedroom, and she received 1 stab wound, but she couldn't be saved, sadly. So he was treated in hospital, then he was taken into custody. So apparently he appeared at the Old Bailey by video link. Right, what I'm looking for now is, I'm just putting some windows down. Let's put a picture back up. I don't really want to particularly look at him. See, can you see that? I think you can see it. Yeah. Shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. But you know what? There is a God. At least he broke both his ankles, so he couldn't run away, because he would have been quite difficult to find because he didn't know them. It's very rare to be murdered by somebody you don't know. That is just statistics. You know, I know it happens. Of course it happens. Same with Anne Widdecombe. But statistics show that most people are murdered by somebody they knew. And people who are murdered by people they didn't know, they're the hardest people to catch, because if there's no ties between people, they're harder to find. You know, it just makes sense, doesn't it? He wasn't from the same area. Don't know why he was there. Did he go to, is it a Sikh area? Did he go, was the other man that was stabbed allegedly, was he a Sikh? Maybe it was an attack against Sikhs. Maybe he knew that there was a high proliferation of Sikhs in that area. Maybe it is a hate crime. It's still being investigated as to, I mean, to me, it's a hate crime, whatever. How much more of a hate crime can you get than somebody breaking in someone's bedroom and stabbing them as they're lying asleep? So it's a hate crime, whatever, but I know what they mean. They are investigating whether there is a connection between this poor girl's religion and her murder by, you know, a stranger for, you know, what reason? What reason? I mean, it just doesn't make sense, does it? What's wrong with people? You know, that they have to do these kind of things. Why do they do it? Just why? Do you imagine, you know, it just always occurs to me, could you imagine, you know, you wake up in the morning, you feel, oh, what am I going to do today? Oh, I know, I'll go and stab some poor person that's asleep in their bed or walking down the street. How do these thoughts even come to you? You know, how do you sit with that in your own head? You know, sometimes you do get angry with people, but to do this don't make sense, does it? Anyway, I'm going to see if I can find a video to play you. And yeah, why is it not all over the news? I mean, when something like this happens, it could be any of us. It literally could be you, it could be me, it could be anyone. I mean, luckily he didn't kill the baby. Maybe he would have, maybe he was going to get around to that, but he didn't have time to. Maybe because she screamed and he saw the husband was waking up. Maybe he just thought, oh, I better get out of here. Who knows if he was planning on killing all of them? Yeah, exactly, David. He didn't stab the husband. He went for the wife first, didn't he? Though, quite often in these sort of cases, they do go for the stronger person first because they try and disable the strongest person. Maybe he wasn't thinking like that. Maybe she was just the nearest to the door, maybe, just went in the room, stabbed the first person, and yeah, maybe he was going to stab the others. But she screamed and that woke the husband, so maybe that's why. I don't know. Who knows? You know what? You can't we try and sort of get inside the mind of these people, but probably just as well we can't, because they're not good people. Just, better we don't understand them. Better we don't understand them, really, because we're not nutters like them. See if there's any other things that I haven't told you. So the road was Uxbridge Road. Any of you live near London or know London? This is Hayes in West London, Uxbridge Road. And around 10 to 8 in the morning, he forced his way into the property and stabbed Mrs. Kaur in the chest as she slept next to her family. Just unbelievable. Now then, let's see if there's any videos I can find. Let's see this one. So imagine as a family, imagine that was your daughter. And this is a foreign country. We've talked about this before, isn't it? Sorry, hang on. It's bad enough to lose a family member in this brutal way. But then imagine it's in a foreign country and her mum and dad don't speak English. Her sister speaks English. Think her brother might do as well. But you're miles away. What can you do? You can't do anything. Anyway, she's already dead. You don't find out for 3 days. Now you've got to try and get her body back. Your daughter she was sent off to the UK with, so much celebration. That spent all that time saving up the money, £25,000 to send her there so she could go on a student visa. Big celebrations as she left. She's going to a better life, it's all going to be good for the future, blah. And she's coming back in a body bag. Bloody terrible.
After an intruder broke into her West London home this month, prosecutors say the 24-year-old was attacked as she slept beside her partner and 3-month-old baby, who were unharmed. Nearly 2 weeks on, Sky News has spoken to Kirandeep's mother, father, brother and sister at their home in Punjab, India.
We found out about Kirandeep's death 3 days after it happened. It was the locals in our village who broke the news to us. We're broken and still can't believe it.
She was such a good girl, never caused us any problems, and she was extremely hard-working, especially in her studies.
These are the last pictures of Kirandeep with her family in India, taken moments before she boarded her flight to England. She arrived on a student visa 2 years ago, hoping to build a better future for herself and one day for her family too.
Her dream was to stand on our own 2 feet and then eventually bring us over to the UK so we could do the same. That dream has been crushed.
Her parents say they sacrificed everything to help build her a future here.
We borrowed money from relatives, and I sold all of my farmland to be able to afford to send Kirandeep to England. It cost us £20,000.
We're a very poor family, so we sent her to the UK with the hopes she can earn a living and help us get out of debt too.
Almost £60,000 has been raised to help support Kirandeep's family. They're grateful for the donations, but say they only want one thing right now.
We just want Kirandeep's body to come to us so we can see her one final time and give her the funeral she deserves. But nobody has even told us where Kirandeep's body is. We don't even know if a post-mortem has been done.
Sky News understands arrangements are now underway to repatriate Kirandeep's body to India in line with her family's wishes. Kirandeep's younger sister chose to speak to us in English, a language she says Kirandeep helped her learn.
I miss everything about her. I have a very sweet memories with her. She loves very much me. She always support me in my studies, in my everything.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Hundreds of people have attended vigils and marches in West London calling for justice for Kirandeep. Daniel Sean James, who police say is a 44-year-old white British man, is charged with murder and the attempted murder of a second man on the street on the same day. Police also say there is no evidence this was a hate crime at this stage, but investigators are keeping an open mind and exploring every line of inquiry.
So that's where we are with this case. Terrible. So, all murders, obviously, just by the nature of this crime channel, true crime channel, we're never going to be talking about anything that's not a heinous crime, really. But I do think these are the worst, aren't they? Like Anne Widdecombe, like Nancy Guthrie, someone not even safe in their own home. There's just something even worse about that. Now, there's quite a lot of videos, obviously, about this case that I've been watching. And, the Sikh community are asking for protection, but you can't protect people from this kind of person. How are you going to protect? How could she have been protected? She couldn't have been protected by the authorities, could she? Maybe, we don't know all the circumstances of this horrible man's history yet. Maybe it'll probably turn out to be one of those where he's been in prison before for violent crime and he should never have been released, but he got released because he got, he's sentenced half for good behaviour. There's so many cases like that. And then these nutters go out and kill more people, don't they? So in that sense, she could have been protected further down the line, but we don't know that that's true yet. This man might have just suddenly decided he was going to go and kill a load of people, or he may have been targeting Sikhs because of the Henry Novak case. It's a possibility, but we don't know. If he displaced himself from where he's from Pinner in London and he went to Hayes. Is Hayes the area where Kal Pinder lived? Was it a Sikh community? Because people do tend to live in communities, and if anyone thinks that's bad, you want to come to Spain. All the British people, they live in expat enclaves. They don't live amongst the Spanish people. They create their own little communities that you wouldn't even know you were in Spain except for the sun. That's just a normal thing, I think, a human thing that people do. They seek out people like them. So quite often, you know, yeah, you will have a Jewish community or a Sikh community or, you know, a Muslim community or whatever it is, just the same as in Spain, that foreigners live in expat enclaves. If you know, if you think that's bad that people do that in the UK, well, that's what people do here. You go to Benidorm, you wouldn't ever even know you were in Spain. You know, I went into a hotel once in Benidorm and spoke to them in Spanish. They nearly dropped dead on the floor. It was like, oh my God, a British person speaking Spanish, you know, because they know that British people in Benidorm don't speak Spanish. So before, you know, if you're out there, if you're one of those that's moaning, you know, about people speaking in their own languages or whatever, come to Spain and see how many British people you can find who speak Spanish. That's just natural. So maybe it was a Sikh community. If this man was seeking retribution for the Henry Novak case, it maybe, you know, you'd probably only have to Google what's a big Sikh community in London near me or whatever, and it might come up as that area. You know, so I'd be very interested to know if the other person that he tried to stab on the street, tried to kill on the street, was a Sikh. Is this a hate crime against Sikhs? Or was this poor woman just unlucky, you know, that her door... So what you can do to protect yourself, of course, because I do believe protection lies with you in your own home. You know, the police can't protect you in your own home. So it is up to you to have the security cameras or the alarm, or at least just make sure your doors are never open or easy to break into. Make sure your windows are closed. You know, make sure you're secure in your own home. That is your responsibility, I think. You should be able to leave your door open or your window open or whatever, but sadly you can't. So you just have to accept the reality of life. I don't see how the police could have helped her, or, you know, in any way, shape or form, because you can't sort of legislate against nutcases like this, can you? You know, you can just do your best in your own home to keep yourself safe. Now, he got in somehow, where he might have broken in through the door, through the window. You know, it might not be that there was easy access into the house, but apparently he was going around the houses trying to get into all different... So he didn't target this woman specifically in the sense of he knew it was her. He was going along that road, trying all the doors. That's where we've got the photos of him from. Because he was caught on door cam with this massive knife. So I tell you what, all the people, look, that was a door cam picture. He's got a great big knife. Look at that knife. He was going along trying all the doors, trying to get into all different houses. So he didn't target this particular house. He just tried to get in lots of different ones. And her house, sadly, was the one he managed to get in. And this was the early hours of the morning. So it wasn't in the middle of the night. It was round about 7:45 in the morning. Look at that knife. He's walking along with that knife openly visible and caught on door cam. That's how he was caught. What a twat. So he's just walking along with murder in his mind. And when he finally got into a house, he just stabbed the first person he came upon in that bed. And maybe he was intending to stab the others as well, the baby even. But she screamed, the husband woke up. He was off out the window, wasn't he? Broke both his ankles. Good. Do you know what? I hope he never walks properly again. Honestly, God, what a twat. He deserves everything that's thrown at him in prison. But I don't know. Terrible, isn't it? Absolutely. Just sometimes you do lose faith in human nature. But the good news is most people would be outraged by that. Most normal thinking people will think that's terrible. Though I do find the lack of outrage on the media, social media and mainstream media. There no riots about this. I mean, obviously the Sikh community will be up in arms about it. But, you know, to me, it's just humans. If you're a human being, you should be outraged about this. Because today it's this poor girl who's a Sikh of the Sikh religion. Tomorrow it might be somebody who hates Catholics, doing it to a Catholic, or hates Jews. It you know, going back to sort of Black Lives Matter and things like that, all lives matter. Nobody's life is worth more than another's, unless they've done something, you know, they've done terrible things. I mean, it's hard to feel sympathy for people like the murderers of Preston Davy, etc. Those people, you know, you do think that other people's lives are worth more than theirs. But, you know, because some people give a good have you noticed that it always seems to be the victims? They're the ones that society misses most. This woman, if she would have finished her studies, become a doctor. We need doctors. We need positive beacons in society. But they're always the ones that end up being victims. And the dregs of society that commit these awful crimes, you know, they get looked after them because they get put in prison. He'll be put in prison, he'll get his ankles looked after that he broke jumping out the window. He'll get his 3 square meals a day. He'll have nothing to worry about, no bills to worry about. He'd be okay, but he's taken someone, not only from her family. So not only she's taken that child's mother, 3-month old baby has lost its mother. Her husband has lost his wife. Her family have lost a daughter, a sister. So not only their personal loss, you know, they're very close to home loss, but society in general has lost someone who would have contributed positively to society. Become a doctor, paid taxes. You know, this is a loss to the world in general. And not only her, but, you know, so often when I'm talking about crimes, the victims are a sad loss, not only to their families, but to the world in general, because they're shining lights. You know, often this happens, doesn't it? So, and it's sad that you have to be so worried about your safety that you can't even feel safe at home. I do think that is particularly sad. You know, it's a big bad world out there. I hate going out into the world a lot of the time because you don't know what you're going to encounter. But when you get home and you shut your door behind you, that's when you should feel safe. And if you're not safe in your own home, that's, for whatever reason, that is very sad, isn't it? Very, very sad. Anyway. So let me know, of course, as always, what you think. Did you know about this case? But there's a lot of people don't even know that it's happened. There was another case that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, this is completely, well, say it's unrelated. It's not really. So another case, not a UK case, though it is a British woman. I think she's Scottish, actually. Let's have a look. Another terrible case that actually I'm going to go into in a deeper dive in another video. So this is an example of a woman that was a bit further from home. So this woman, I think she's Scottish, Elizabeth Jane Ross, found in a suitcase in Greece, deceased. So she was, a little bit further from home. She was travelling in Greece. She was helping the homeless, apparently. Again, another shining light in society. Why are always the victims shining lights? You know, it's like, you know, do you think God takes them because they are good? And, you know, I don't know, maybe those of us that left here, we're in hell, really, because we've still got lessons to learn. I have no fucking clue. But anyway, Elizabeth Ross in Greece, she's 38 years old, and she was found. Let's have it, just give you a little summary of the case. In Athens, I've never been to Greece, so I don't know, but in the Kypseli district of Athens on the 18th of July this year, just days after she was reported missing, she was found deceased in a suitcase, 38 years old. Anyway, they have someone. So the good news in this case is someone has been arrested, and he has admitted that he transported the body of a Scottish woman in a suitcase to an abandoned building. But I don't think we know yet. Let me just play this video for you.
An incredibly distressing case. This Scottish woman who had entered Greece on the 26th of June and was visiting friends, and it's since transpired that her body was found in a suitcase in a dilapidated building by a homeless person who alerted the authorities. And like you say, her bank card was used to make withdrawals and her phone was used. And we have seen since an arrest being made of a 26-year-old man
26
who has been linked with the case and is being held by the Greek police. Elizabeth Jane Ross was 38 years old. We know that she's from Scotland, and we know that her identity was discovered using her fingerprints, and that's how the identification was made and verified. The police in Greece have been analysing footage, and that's how the arrest of this 26-year-old man has been made. We've also had a statement from police in Scotland, and the spokesperson has said that we are aware of the death of a Scottish woman in Athens and are liaising with authorities in Greece. Officers are providing support to her family in Scotland. Obviously, it's one to watch, and we'll be informing our people of any changes that take place with regards to this case.
Yeah. So, what did they say? He was 24 or was it 26? Young man. You know, it's so sad, really, because obviously her life has been ruined and her family's life ruined by whatever happened. But, you know, that he's a young man, he's ruined his life, probably ruined his family's life. You know, these things are so sad. So once I get more details actually of what's happened in this case exactly, you know, she was supposedly helping homeless people. You know, they say no good deed ever goes unpunished, doesn't it? Was that how she got into contact with this guy? So all that is unclear. How she met him, you know, how she ended up in a situation where she must have been alone with him, you know, for him to do whatever he did. You know, so the whole situation is not clear yet of how it came about. But as soon as I know more, I will be doing a video about that. But it's gender violence, isn't it, as well? You know, this is it. You know, women are more often targets than men are. You know, a lot of people travel these days, don't they? Go traveling, and as a woman on your own, you're not as safe. You're not. Men on their own aren't safe. Nobody's safe. You know, the devil is in this world, and the devil works through people, and you can never be sure. I was watching some, I'm always watching crime videos, of course. Sometimes I forget what channel I'm watching, just videos that come up. And it was, what this woman did, talk about no good deed goes unpunished. She was in, a supermarket, and there was somebody in there, they couldn't afford, they didn't have enough money for their groceries. So she stepped forward and paid for their groceries for them. Out of the goodness of her heart, Good Samaritan, paid for the groceries for these people. I don't know if it was just a woman on her own, she thought. Anyway, these twonks followed her in her car because she'd bought these groceries for them, and they were drug addicts. So they knew she had money. So, she probably wasn't rich. She probably just had a spare $20 or whatever, wanted to help out these people. And they followed her, ran her off the road in her car, murdered her, and stole her money and her cards. You just think, for fuck's sake, you can't even help someone. And those people, she helped them, and they rewarded her by murdering her and stealing her. This could have been what's happened in this case. So that puts you off even helping anyone, doesn't it? I've done that before. I've bought people's groceries. I'm struggling to buy my own groceries at the moment. But, thing is, you go through good times and bad times. And whenever I am going for a better time, I always try and help other people, even if it's just giving a couple of euros, if they're sat outside the supermarket or whatever. But I have actually bought bags of groceries for people, took them out, sometimes I'd rather do that than give them money. I buy them a bag of just your staples, like your milk, pasta, bread, etc., the things, that people normally need. And if they've got a dog with them, they get a tin of dog food or some dog treats. I've done that many times, but when I watched that video, I'm saying many times, I mean, over the years, I don't do it like every week or whatever, but if I have got some spare money, I will do it. Ever since I watched that video, I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe they'll think I'm rich because I'm buying that, and they'll follow me and murder me. Mind you, they soon get a shock when they looked in my bank account, but, just, it's horrible, isn't it? If you can't do any, if you've got to be even scared of doing a good deed. Anyway, it wouldn't stop me if I'm ever in that position again and I see someone that I think that needs, I'd still do it. I would still do it. But I just think maybe, it just makes you a little bit more cautious. Bye, David. It just makes you a little bit more cautious, doesn't it, about your safety. You can never underestimate your own personal safety. You've got to be aware of. I'm aware when I'm driving my car at night, I see headlights behind me. Now, of course, these days, headlights, they're very distinctive, aren't they? Bloody hell, sometimes you feel like you've got a UFO behind you because the way lights are now on the new cars, God, they're very distinctive. Nearly every car looks completely different. And if I notice a car behind me at night, I mean, I don't have to do such a long journey now since my son's moved restaurants, thank God. And the road isn't as spooky as the road I was having to go up before. But I notice them. I notice the lights, and if, I watch where they're going when I turn off, if they turn off as well, which of course could just be a coincidence. But if I feel like they've gone the same way as me too many times, I'll go a different way. I'll turn a different way from where I'm really going just to see if they follow me or not, And it's stupid, I know, maybe in a way, but I'm always aware of my surroundings, always. I do think that comes of living in Manchester as well years ago. You do get streetwise when you live in a big city. I think now I live in a little village. If I'd been brought up here, I wouldn't be so streetwise. But when you grow up in a city like Manchester, where there are there's always been no-go areas in Manchester. It hasn't only just become difficult in some areas. There's always been areas you were better off not to go through. You know, and I've been out in those areas. I've been to Moss Side and Hume and all those places. I lived in Moston. You know, these places, you know, I've worked in betting shops in what you would call no-go areas. You know, maybe that's where I sort of got more streetwise. You've just always got to be aware of your surroundings. And but never look at someone directly. You know, if you're on a bus and you've got the nutter on the bus, which I normally always get, the nutter on the bus normally comes and sits next to me. So I sit on the outside of the seat so that somebody can't do that. But you can't look at them directly, because that's like a red flag to a bull. If you stare, forget that. But you've got to be looking at them all the time out of your peripheral vision. Be aware of what they're doing and that. I think you learn that when you do live in these areas that are perhaps a bit dodgy. You do learn to be aware and streetwise. You know, that's a good thing, really. So you've always got to be aware of your safety, aware of your environment. You know, that's the way it is. Wherever you live, whether you live in a city, whether you live in a little village, you've always got to be aware of your environment, haven't you? Okay, well, I didn't do my housekeeping again. I might as well just do it quickly now. I wanted to go into my reviews on my books and things. So don't forget, if you want to know more about me, you can buy Confessions of a Spanish Teacher on any Amazon site. It's got good reviews. Read the reviews before you buy. That's really story of my life when I lived in Manchester. And if you want to learn Spanish, again, very good reviews. I'm really pleased with the reviews I've got on all my books. So this is Break the Language Barrier, again, available on, if you want to learn Spanish, available on any Amazon site, wherever you live in this mad world. Answers in the back, explanations in English, good reviews. And there are 5 levels. Whatever level you're at with your Spanish, there'll be a level for you. Also, I wanted to tell you, thank you. My merchandise is on my Ko-fi page. There's mugs, there's T-shirts, wine glasses, bottles of wine, anything, just bits of, I need to add to it, do more to it, to be honest. And what else did I want to talk about? I think that's it. I was going to go into it in more depth, but I won't bore you with it now. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah, and let's feel outraged. This outrage is necessary. That poor woman, she was in her own bed, sleeping next to her husband, 24 years old, Kirandeep Kaur. Let me put her photo up one more time. Don't forget her. And don't think it couldn't happen to you. Don't think it couldn't happen to you or your loved one. This is an outrage that somebody, an innocent 24-year-old mother of a 3-month-old child, could be lying in her own bed and some twonk breaks in and stabs her and murders her, who doesn't even know her. Disgusting. Where's the outrage from the government? Where's the outrage from the media? Where's the outrage from the social media? This is a stain on Britain. That happened in London, in Britain. Disgusting. Poor woman. Anyway, thank you. I'll see you really soon. Thank you for the candles and hearts for her. I'll see you really soon in the next video, which may be later on today. If not, definitely be tomorrow. Thank you so much, and may your God go with you. Bye.